This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. On the last episode, Brian Min from QuirkyWriter.com explains why he focuses on winning over early adopters instead of going after the entire market at first. In this episode, I talked to an entrepreneur that started a completely digital nomad business. In this episode, you'll learn how they invested $100,000 creating their product, how to overcome the challenges of starting a business while traveling, and what kind of prep you need to do before launching your first Kickstarter campaign. Today, I'm joined by Doug Barber from Manal.com. That's MINAAL.com. Manal produces durable professional travel gear that gets you where you want to be faster, happier, and more productive, and was started in 2013 and is a completely remote business. Welcome, Doug.
Hello, Felix. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit more about your store and some of the popular products that you carry.
Yeah, so we, I guess a few years ago, we kind of identified a gap in the market for sort of really good quality, rugged travel gear that you could also take into a professional setting. So, for the people who want to, in the morning, they might have to present, to the board, but then they want to take that same gear, and climb a volcano or something, and they want to travel pretty light. So, yeah, that's kind of the stuff in the market that we focus on.
Mm-hmm. So you found this gap in the market. Was this based on personal experience? Like, how did you stumble across this? I get you're saying this gap in the market where you couldn't find a product that also worked in a professional setting, but also for just everyday travel.
Yeah, it was sort of just from lots of traveling. So my co-founder and I, we went on exchange. We met because we went on exchange to university in Vancouver, Canada, sort of many years ago. And so that was, we've kind of been pretty obsessed with travel. I mean, probably before that, but that really kicked it into gear. And so from that point, kind of dealing with these bags of varying quality and in the end, like just getting really frustrated with what was out there. And even though we didn't have experience in the industry, just trying to, make something ourselves that worked.
Mm-hmm, very cool. So you said you didn't have experience in the industry, but was this your first entrepreneurial venture, or have you tried starting businesses or launching products in the past?
Yeah, I think it was the first serious one. So it was all under kind of Manal. Like we did try some other products kind of in the general area for travelers, and it was kind of more the case of manufacturers kind of bailing on us just because we even back then we had some pretty ridiculous standards that we needed them to meet, and it was too hard for many of them. And that's when we kind of, by that point, we'd become pretty passionate about making a really high quality backpack, and we got some quick traction on that and found a really amazing manufacturer, and things kind of moved pretty quickly from there for us.
Yeah, you mentioned that it was your first serious business. Was this that it was the first one that seriously took off, or one that you seriously devoted or committed to in a more intense way? Like, what made it more of a serious business for you?
The gap between kind of, I think, anything that either of us had done before this that was entrepreneurial was pretty huge. So I would say it basically is the first. I mean, we kind of was that we kind of stuck with the same theme. I guess you could almost say we pivoted over the years, and it was, I guess, we had always intended making backpacks, but that wasn't. That was kind of, we saw that as maybe a more advanced stage. So when the kind of apparel stuff didn't work out for us, that's what we launched into. So it ended up being the kind of first part of it for us, and now. Yeah, we have kind of more than enough to do on the backpack side with new products over the next while that, it'll probably be a little while before we move into anything else.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a stage that a lot of entrepreneurs go through where they they want to launch a business and they go through different phases with different products, different ideas. And then, they find one that either has some little more traction or something about it just helps them, or something about a particular product or a particular idea they just gravitate towards. What was it about your situation? Like what made this particular, the backpack specifically, like what made that one become successful? Or what made that one the one that you guys decided to essentially go all in on?
Yeah, I think it was just people's general reaction. So I guess we had a pretty strong hunch that this had the potential to be pretty big early on. Like, from having our first sort of prototype made and just having that kind of change the travel experience for us. And then the comments we were getting from people, and this was an early prototype. This was the very first one. So it's, we've come a long way since then. But even with that early one, people were, just super excited and were kind of willing to throw money at us at that stage. So I guess we, had some pretty strong hints there that we may have been onto a good thing.
Yeah, I've heard this before from other entrepreneurs where they start a business. You guys obviously started a business intentionally, but a lot of entrepreneurs start business unintentionally where they create something for themselves and all of a sudden everyone's asking them, where can I buy that? Can I buy it off of you? Are you selling whatever product that is? So was it that kind of situation where people are coming up to you in person asking you about your travel gear, or did you guys have some kind of online way to collect this feedback?
No, it was all very in person. At that point, I think we had I'm not sure at what point in it all we kind of set up a landing page, but even that was pretty basic and didn't have a lot of details about the bag. So it was very much the in-person reaction to people, because of course we were traveling all around the place, and so there were a lot of interactions day to day with other people. Just the reaction was really positive.
Yeah, that's great that you're able to, I guess, look at it objectively, because you had started launched other products in the past, and I think whenever we do launch something on our own, there are two potential paths that can go down. One way is being hypercritical and never think it's good enough or never like it, or the other path, which is you look at it from like rose tinted glasses, where you only listen to the good feedback, you don't listen to the bad feedback, and you kind of tend to over exaggerate the potential success of a particular product. How were you able to, I guess, look at your businesses or look at your products that you're launching objectively to know that this was the one versus, the apparel or whatever else you guys were trying to sell previously? Like, how come you didn't think, oh, maybe someone might be interested in this, even though you weren't getting the same type of feedback?
Yeah, we hadn't. So any of the stuff that we'd done before was reasonably small scale. So it was like the stuff we were doing was just sent to beta customers, and actually people were very happy with that. It was more, I guess, if it hadn't been for the for kind of manufacturers not being able to produce what to the standard we expected, we might have continued with that. But I guess, in terms of the feedback stuff, we've kind of always surrounded ourselves with people who, will tell us straight up what they think of it, and I think that's pretty important. So any of our early feedback, we got some, we got some strong and critical feedback, and I think you kind of it's a good skill to learn to be able to just take that all on board without trying to explain it away. Just because it's very easy to take that stuff on board personally and be hurt. But I think if you just, no matter what the feedback, if you hear it out, and write everything down, ask questions only to clarify, and then take that all away and kind of process it. That's kind of the stuff that worked well for us.
Yeah, I like that. You say only ask questions to clarify rather than trying to explain it or try to convince the person giving you the feedback to believe what you want them to believe. I think that's important skill. So you mentioned this a couple of times already now about the work of these manufacturers. You guys have particular standards, sounds like very high standards, or at least maybe the product had some technology on it that you wanted to make sure that these manufacturers were able to produce. So tell us about your experience there. Like maybe we'll start with the very first experience of you trying to launch previous products. Like what were they, and like what manufacturer issues were you running into?
I guess, so if we're talking about on the apparel side, it was just that it's kind of almost everything we do seems to be different to the way other businesses do it. So that's kind of always been a struggle, and right back then it was the same. That it took a really long time to explain to the manufacturers like the way we wanted to do it. It was it required kind of changing their process, and I can understand why they would bail out after a while, because we're quite demanding, and that certainly hasn't changed. But we've on the backpack side, like it sort of took us, I would say. So while the apparel stuff was going on, we were searching for backpack manufacturers around the world, because we had been sketching our plans at that point, and it was something we thought we would eventually do. So it took us kind of 2 years to find the right manufacturer. That we've got a lot of boxes that we need to tick around ethics and environmental concerns, and and quality, and we want to be working with people that we enjoy working with as well. So it took a really long time and a worldwide search to find the right place. And we've once we selected that factory, we've continued with them to the present day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to look back on your business and see the kind of stepping stones that you took to get to where you guys are today. Was that, I guess, intentional? Was that on purpose to start with apparel and then move to backpacks? Because I'm hearing it sounds like you're saying that you always had the goal of eventually producing backpacks. Like, why take these kind of steps along the way rather than just going straight for the backpacks right off the bat?
Yeah, I mean, we always had the idea that eventually, there would be a kind of ecosystem of products under the brand. But it was, I guess, initially on traveling around before, as a tourist, I think we'd both had some exposure to the apparel side of things, so that we saw that as a less complex product to start with, which I think is still the case. So it's while we were learning, because there's obviously a lot to learn in manufacturing and kind of textiles, which is important for both of those products. And high-end backpacks is a pretty complex area. And I guess we didn't feel like we could launch into that straight away.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So if you have this ultimate goal of multiple products, and I think you said like an ecosystem of products that you wanted to create underneath this brand, did you feel overwhelmed by this kind of mission? Because I think a lot of times when entrepreneurs are at the starting point, they are looking at the finish line and say they want 10 different products underneath this particular brand, and it just becomes like an overwhelming beast for you to achieve that goal. How were you able to have this big vision of having an ecosystem of different products, which sounds like you guys are still building out, but make sure that you're not being too overwhelmed and you're actually able to do the job, I guess, on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I guess, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. And I think, if you're trying something that is difficult, I think it's kind of inevitable, but you just have to you just kind of have to find some sort of mental fortitude within yourself and kind of stick at it. And that's kind of how we approached it. It would be very easy to give up at multiple points. You've just got to really want it, which we did, and just keep keep sticking at it.
Makes sense. So you mentioned earlier too that one of the reasons that you had difficulties with manufacturing efforts was because everything you guys wanted to do was different than other businesses. And I think this is an important question, not just for manufacturing, but in general when it comes to marketing, when it comes to branding. If everything you're doing, you notice that you're running into these roadblocks, or it was an uphill battle because it was different than the way others were doing it, did you ever question and ask yourself, like, why not just do it the way other businesses are doing it, and how did you answer that question?
I guess we just looked at the other businesses that were doing it in this other way. Just looked at what they'd become and asked ourselves if that is what we wanted to become, and the answer was always no. So for us there was always while it can be frustrating at times, like we could always reassure ourselves as like, we are different, and this is worth persevering with. Like even if it takes a lot more explanation and time, like overall that will be beneficial for us because we will be a truly unique brand.
I think this is an important topic because a lot, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs that want to create, let's say, like a lifestyle business where they want a particular lifestyle for themselves. Maybe that's what you guys are going for, but it maybe sounds more like you guys had a particular vision for the brand, for the products itself. But let's say you wanted to carve out your own path. You want to get to a certain point that others are not at, or are thinking the other businesses are thinking differently about a particular goal that you have. When you are going down this path and these uphill battles, there's a lot of bumps along the way. What do you do to stay resilient, to make sure that it is, like you're saying, it was worth it, the goal? But I'm sure you had days where it maybe didn't feel that way, where it felt like today feels like a really bad day because we are trying to do things our own way. Like, what did you do on a day-to-day basis, or how did you consistently make sure that you weren't losing hope essentially in the way that you guys are approaching the business?
Yeah, well, I guess if you just kind of let yourself step outside of like whatever particular situation you are, and kind of go one step out and be kind of think, well, look, where am I today? Like I'm in some random part of the world, so I may be working on some difficult problem, but then I'm gonna walk down to some really crazy little restaurant by the sea, and compare that against what you could have been doing in a former life, like stuck in a cubicle somewhere. I kind of have first-hand experience of that cubicle life, so I have something to look back on and think, no matter how bad this day is, overall it's just so much better than that style of life for me anyway. It's like it's all about what speaks to you personally, and that will be a life that some people will want, but for me it's not, and I much prefer this, even with the ups and downs.
That sounds like you practice a lot of gratitude, making sure that you are grateful for what you have already. I think that's a big part of it as an entrepreneur, is that we're very ambitious, we're intense as well, wanting to get things done, but it could also be a gift and a curse because you could go down a path where you're never satisfied no matter where you are, no matter what you achieve. I think it's important for what you're saying is that to know what speaks to you and don't waver from that, because you'll always end up in a place that you're not happy unless you kind of stick to what you, I guess that, like you're saying, speaks to you the most. So was there a moment in your I guess quote unquote past life where you realized that this is not what I want to do, or was it something that built up over time? Like, what was the thought process that you went through to determine what you're really about?
Yeah, well, I think probably I knew that before I even started, kind of in the corporate world. But I guess maybe I can't remember my exact thinking, but I guess part of me maybe saw into the future and thought, well, maybe it's useful for me to experience what a lot of people do in the world, and at least go and do this for a little while and see what it's like. And I'm kind of glad that I glad that I did. So I have that benchmark to look back on now, and that certainly helps with the gratitude element that you're talking about. Yeah, I guess I had always, from a relatively early age, I kind of thought that entrepreneurship would be the way for me. But I still did want to have the kind of traditional university experience at least.
Makes sense. So speaking of staying kind of true to who you are, I think once you become successful, and I want to get to this in a bit about your Kickstarter campaigns, you had 2 very successful Kickstarter campaigns. And, obviously once that happens, you get a lot of publicity, a lot of people hear about you, and the business starts becoming more successful. The brand becomes bigger, and then all of a sudden, there's all these opportunities that start popping up, right? People start reaching out to you, wanting to work with you. They want to sell you things. Like, how do you, when that happens, it's easy to start to say, I'm going to stick to my roots and stick to what I believe in when no one is trying to essentially taunt you or bring you these opportunities. It's easy for you to stick to that. But once you get the exposure, and all of a sudden everybody wants to work with you, wants to give you an opinion, or wants to, tell you about how you should run your business. Like, how do you combat that? Like, how do you make sure that you aren't being dragged down someone else's kind of goals and staying on track with yours when there are so many opportunities that just start popping up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I just think we're very strongly minded and kind of have a clear idea about what is us and what isn't. So I guess we don't have too much trouble saying no, and we do have to say no a lot. But it's just if you are really clear on your vision and what you're trying to achieve and why you are doing this all in the first place. If you keep coming back to that, then usually you've got a pretty clear answer on whether you're going to say yes or no to something.
Mm-hmm. Was there like a formal sit down that you and your team or you and your partner had to do to determine the vision? Like, how did you come up with it, I guess? Because I think this is the foundation that needs to be established if you want to start a business, and start a business that's going to be sustainable and won't burn you out, won't drag you down a wrong path, is that you need to have a vision to begin with, the vision that you can stick to. But how do you even come up with a vision to actually point to and say, this is what we believe in?
Yeah, I guess, well, sometimes it can come from, you can figure it out based on what you don't want. And I'm sure there was an element of that for us, but it was really, for us, it was, as guys who were passionate about travel and really wanting to do that as much as possible, like that was kind of it. So something we needed to be doing something that would give us the freedom and flexibility to keep traveling and where we wouldn't be tied to any one location, and kind of built it up from there. And then as co-founders, we sit down we have like quarterly catch-ups, and then annually we have a kind of more like very sort of long scale look and check that what we're still doing kind of matches back to what our original goal was. Just check that we're both still on the same page with that, and that has always been the case. Each year we've caught up.
Makes sense. Yeah, if you figure, I like that approach of figuring out what you don't want and then trying to design a life or design a business to not necessarily avoid it, but to not put yourself in that situation where you have to work a corporate job or whatever it is that you don't want. And I think a lot of listeners out there that are trying to go down this path, they're going to run into obstacles, right? They're going to run into situations where it's very hard for them to get away from what they don't want. Was there a point where you came across this and you almost decided to go back to the lifestyle you had before? Like, what was it? Like, what were some of the times where it wasn't as easy to stay on the path of doing what you actually do want to do? Yeah,
I think I can probably honestly say that there was no point where I decided that I should go back to doing what I was doing, and I don't think I've ever asked Jimmy that directly, but I suspect that his answer would would be the same.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the backpack then, because like you were saying earlier, there were some manufacturing issues with the first run of products, the apparel line. What changed about the backpack? Like, what was the situation with the backpack and the manufacturers that made it at least a lot more feasible than with the apparel?
I think that we were talking to to a really high-end manufacturer that just understood what we were trying to achieve very early on, and everything just kind of clicked there. Whereas with the earlier apparel manufacturers, it was all a real struggle. Essentially, that was kind of the major difference. Just having someone on board that you feel understands what you're trying to do, I think is pretty important.
Do you remember how many manufacturers you had to approach before you found the right one?
50, 60, 70, wow. I guess.
So what was there like a good process that you followed to reach out to them? Because if you had to talk to 50 or 60 manufacturers before you can even begin going down a path of producing this product, is there a way to make it easier? Let's say you were to launch the business again, and you had to find a manufacturer that you had high standards. Is there a better approach that you would take this time around to make sure that you were able to identify the right manufacturers without spending too much time in that stage?
I think if I was in the same situation I was back then, I don't think there were any real good shortcuts to that. It was just being on the ground, traveling around, like visiting these places, asking lots of questions. It's all a way to learn more about the industry. The more you visit, the questions that you ask get better each time. And I guess if me in my position was doing it now, then I have a huge amount of contacts in various manufacturing industries, so things would be faster there. But if you don't know anything, I think you still need to there's still a lot to be gained from doing it the slow and hard way.
Makes sense. So you were visiting all of these manufacturers in person?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I think a question that's going to come up in a lot of listeners' heads is like, how did you fund all of this entire trip? Like, how did you, quit your job, it sounds like, and travel and just try to start a business? Like, how were you able to fund all of this?
Yeah. So it came from, out of university, I worked 18 months in my first corporate job before I quit to go traveling. And that was the kind of beginnings of the business. So, so what actually happened there was during most of those 18 months, I'd kind of decided that before I went in, like I wasn't gonna get caught in the trap of, paying high rent and buying lots of things and buying expensive food. And so it was a case of just continuing to live like a student while having a job. So Jimmy, my co-founder, and I actually, before we were in business together, we were, so we shared this kind of lower level of a place, and for many, many months together, kind of roughing it down there it was a nice-ish part of town, but kind of splitting basically a basement together. We didn't pay much in rent, and we ate very simple meals. But so I guess there's there are kind of sacrifices to be made, but we were happy to do that because it was kind of a travel / future business fund, I would say. And so if you're eating your crap food, but it's that the money you're spending can go towards something really exciting in the future. I think it's something that you can manage.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's very, you thought very forward very early on, which helped you set up yourself to not have the debt or not have the the essentially golden handcuffs of being stuck in a salary job and do all this. I think a lot of listeners out there might be in that situation. So I wonder, if someone wanted to do the same thing, maybe not travel, but essentially quit their job and focus full time on building a business. I think that's maybe a slightly better middle ground. Do you remember any points where you felt like you were going to run out of cash during this entire thing? Like, what was it ever? Did it ever get kind of scary that this might not all work out?
Yeah, I mean, there was a period in there where, because it was sort of a case of Jimmy and I, like when one was traveling around, like visiting factories, the other would be back in New Zealand working. So we'd kind of swap over at times. So that was kind of the thing that we needed to do to refill the fund a little bit. And that kind of worked. But yeah, once we felt like we were really getting traction on the product side, we knew that we could move things a lot faster if we both went full time, and kind of that's what we did, and just went for it. And that makes a massive difference when you can focus all your energy on something.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking a little bit before the call, before we hit record, and you mentioned to me that I asked you, where are you guys based out of, and you said nowhere particular. You're traveling all the time. I want to talk about the kind of pros and cons of this. Like, what is it like to start a business without a physical home base that you come back to, but you're essentially just traveling all around the world while running the business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it definitely has its challenges, but I think. Yeah, it may be weird to say, but I almost feel more at home kind of traveling when I don't have a home, and I know that's definitely not going to be the case for everyone, and it's probably even a pretty small minority. But yeah, I mean, this entrepreneurship kind of does allow you to a certain extent to design the life that works for you, and that's kind of that's what I think we've achieved. And I guess the business has been set up in a way that enables that, but it's also, it would work, I guess, just fine if if one or both of us decided to stay in one place for a while. But it's just that we're so passionate about travel that it just seems to happen that way anyway.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the challenges that you encountered that you did not expect when you first started off or started the business, while traveling?
Well, I guess as the team grows, you kind of get to the point where, and everyone else is remote essentially as well. You do have meetings kind of at all hours of the day and sometimes night, and that's. Yeah, I guess that can cause problems, I guess, sometimes, but not really. I think that's a pretty small trade-off for the kind of the life that comes out of that. And I guess particularly for us as a travel gear company, I guess no one can kind of accuse us of not being travelers. We are both doing it pretty much full time. But yes, I mean, sometimes you do need to, productivity can take a hit sometimes depending on the style of travel. But I think we're both been doing it for long enough now that we can still turn out decent work on the road. But we still give ourselves, some solid blocks of time in one place as well for things that are more difficult to do when you're physically moving.
Yeah, one thing I've heard about from other digital nomads is that because they're traveling so frequently, and then they're going to cities that are places in the world that are just essentially teasing them to come out of their work mode and travel, or not travel, but explore. And one of the biggest difficulties I've heard is that the productivity point that you're bringing up, which is that it's hard to settle into work mode when you could be out and exploring the new environment that you're in. How do you, I guess, combat that and actually be able to get down and get work done when you are traveling so frequently?
I think for me, I've just gotten to a point where, I kind of get enough stimulation, like going between the spots that I'm going to be working from, and I don't I don't feel the need that when I arrive in a new place I need to go and see all the kind of tourist hotspots or anything like that. And I'm just happy to let like everyday life in that place, going out for meals, or if you need to, pick up something random, like go and pick up some electrical tape or something. It's those little tasks that are kind of more, I guess you feel like more of a local, just doing sort of regular things, going to the supermarket to get food and that kind of thing. So I think, for me, it's once you kind of treat yourself as not a tourist and someone who's at least gonna be a resident there for whatever period of time you're there, even if it's just a day. It kind of takes away that sort of, the FOMO element of like, I'm in the city for 2 days and if I looked at the travel guide, there'd be all these things that I have to do. Like, once you get past that, it's really not too much of a problem, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess give yourself the time so you're not rushed in one particular location so that you don't feel like you have to head out. You can kind of settle into it. Makes sense. So for anyone out there that is thinking about taking their business on the road or just setting up a business for the first time to be completely remote and following your footsteps, what are some things to keep in mind or start preparing today before making that leap into running or starting a completely remote business?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of, just for traveling, if you're going to be sort of permanently on the road, I guess there are a lot of things to, in terms of like getting your own affairs in order. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you need to kind of figure out at home and try and, all the little things like, getting your bank to stop sending physical statements to you, and maybe if you're going to be away for a year, getting an international driver's license at home, because that's something you can't get once you're abroad. So there's a whole lot of little things that you can get in order before you go. But at the wider business level, it's you just have to be, especially if we're talking about a remote team, you just have to be really good at turning things into systems over time, and you need to improve your communication skills, I think, because as a remote team, something that's really important is essentially over communicating, because if you had a team in one physical place, it's not so important. You can you're always getting a sense of how people are doing, whether they're struggling or whatever, but if it's remote, you often can't see their face, and you don't know what their general demeanor is. So, making sure you're really, really clear and over communicate in any of the written communication is pretty important, and that doesn't come naturally to, I'd say, most people. So it's something to kind of work on.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So let's talk about the Kickstarter campaigns, because I think this is where your business really took off. So you launched 2 campaigns. We'll talk about the first one first. The first campaign, which I think was launched in 2013, had a goal of $30,000, ended up raising 10 times that at $341,000 from over 1,600 backers. So before we get to the actual campaign itself, like, what stage was the business at prior to launching the Kickstarter campaign? Did you have prototypes ready? Like, what did you have ready, or what did you have already developed before launching the campaign? Yeah,
I mean, we had. At the point we launched, we'd actually done a pretty serious amount of preparation. So we had gone through, 13 or 14 like different iterations of the bag, and each one we'd take a new sample, take it out to the people kind of nearby, and let them just tell us everything they thought of it. Kind of that process I was describing before about just letting that feedback come to you and write everything down. And we'd planned for every sort of scenario. So right from like, we're really struggling to get close to the goal, what are we going to do? And we're completely overwhelmed. So it was a case of making sure we had a factory who could handle that demand, making sure we'd timelined everything out and had a little bit of slack, because there's always, no matter how prepared you are, if you're talking about sort of physical manufacturing, there's going to be there's going to be things that you couldn't possibly have known that's going to push things out a little bit. So yeah, just being very prepared. And I think I've seen it probably a lot of times with some of these products that end up on Kickstarter, where it becomes apparent that that the creators hadn't actually checked, they hadn't even found their factory at that point, so they didn't know whether it could be produced at scale or how much that was going to cost, and that can definitely get you into problems later on. So for us, it was kind of a mantra of like, prepare and over prepare before we kind of press launch on that campaign.
Yeah, 13 to 14 iterations prior to launching is definitely on the high end of preparedness for a Kickstarter campaign, because I hear all the time from people that are launching on Kickstarter where they're treating it as the starting point, like it's their first iteration or maybe first couple. They're putting it out there and hoping to kind of learn along the way and improve and change the product along the way before it ends, and they have to start manufacturing it or start sending out to manufacturers. So how did you know that you landed on the right iteration before launching on Kickstarter, especially since you went through 13 or 14 already? How did you say, okay, the 13th, this is the 13th one or 14th one, this one is I don't want to say good enough, but it's ready to go on Kickstarter? Just kind of a sense of this is pretty damn good at this point, from just trying to be as objective as possible, and kind of when the negative feedback really starts drying up from these people who have been pretty loudly telling you what they think is wrong with it, when that starts to disappear, and we'd gone through a stage at that point of sending bags out to a small beta crew, so they could actually use it over a period of time and see if there was anything else wrong. So we'd fixed any of the little issues from that. So by that point we were pretty confident that it was it was a ready product. But even then we wanted to leave ourselves open to and provide some time in the timeline to slightly change the product based on feedback that we received from during the campaign. And so that was something that was valuable as well. So we've done that in both campaigns and changed small things. Yeah, I think ideally any entrepreneur out there is launching a business, they would, if they had all the time in the world, all the funds in the world, they would love to kind of continue testing and creating the perfect product before putting it out. But I want to talk about your process, because I don't think that much time had elapsed between the very first prototype and launching on Kickstarter. So tell us about the cycle of going from a new prototype iteration to a beta tester to getting their feedback, now back to the manufacturer that's producing a prototype. Like, how did that entire cycle work, and how did you work it so that it could be done in for 13, 14 prototypes? It was kind of a case of us, getting ourselves into a position where we didn't have to focus on anything else. We didn't, we weren't trying to do any other jobs by that point, and we were flexible in terms of where we could be. We could essentially just camp out by the factory for as long as it took, which is what we did. So it's a case of just devoting all our efforts to that. So taking in the initial prototype, which we had brought in from New Zealand, where we had it made, and then so already from that first travel, we had a bunch of things that we wanted to change for the next sample. Take that out to our group of kind of trusted feedback peeps and hear everything from them, write it all down, and then we'd lock ourselves away as founders for a couple of days and process all that feedback and think about, okay, well, we don't want to end up with the Homer Simpson's car, so we have to go through each piece of feedback in terms of whether people think we should add something or change something on the bag, and look at it as against what's our original vision for this product, and would that change be in line with that, and if so, kind of note it down as a thing we wanted to change, and other things you discard, and then kind of write that all up and communicate that back to the manufacturer for the next round, and just
repeat that for months and months and months and months.
Do you remember how much time and capital you had to invest to go through all of these iterations before it was ready for Kickstarter?
From that part of it, it was probably a year in sample stage, I guess. And in terms of capital, tens of thousands of at least, probably, probably
wow.
100,000 plus potentially.
Wow.
Plus our time, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an investment that shows you're very committed to it. And did you ever feel like, man, we're getting too deep into this? Like, let's just launch with what we have. Like, how did you combat those feelings of, we've already invested a year of our lives, $100,000. Like, did you ever feel like, let's just go with what we have?
No, I think we're both fairly perfectionist in the way we do things, and we know that we're realistic in the sense that we know that nothing can be absolute, no product can ever be 100% perfect, but there's kind of a level that we would be that we were comfortable enough with, and I think we both had a kind of sense that we were gonna basically kind of fix anything that our feedback group were talking about at this point, and because we still had the position to do it. We hadn't run out of money at that point, but maybe we weren't too far away from it. That perfectionist thing that is kind of hard. It's a good thing to have, but it needs to be checked in some way. Like otherwise, you'd never release anything. But I guess we feel as though we've gotten to a good enough point in the way we think about these things, like a good balance if we are looking to be a really, really high quality product company.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So campaign number 2 on Kickstarter had a lower goal of only $10,000, but raised even more money than the first campaign. This one raised over $700,000 from 2,400 backers. So tell us about your promotion strategy for both of these. Like, did you guys do any preparation to market and promote the campaigns before they started? Like, how were you able to hit your goal and then break through so successfully for both of these campaigns?
Well, for the I guess for the first one, I guess we got a bit of help from the people that we had involved in the process. So it was a lot of their feedback that went into the bag, and that kind of meant that by the end of that there was a bag that they really wanted as well. So and kind of our the online community that we're part of, the DC, the Dynamite Circle, a lot of guys in there, gave us a lot of help in getting the word out. And then for the second one, I think we didn't really. We were basically really focused on product kind of right up until the time we launched, and didn't do so much in the promotion side of things. But I guess at that point we'd had a lot of word of mouth marketing over the last couple of years, and a kind of sizable email list by that point. That it was quite different to the way we approached it, and we really didn't actually do a lot. Just kind of dropped it to the lists, and kind of, I guess, had a few teaser videos kind of cut out from various parts of our Kickstarter video, and kind of that was it, and it started the total raised fairly quickly on that. Mm-hmm. On that second one.
Yeah, I can definitely see why a second campaign would be, I wouldn't say anything is easy, but at least easier than the first one, because you have that PR essentially from the first campaign. You have the email list. You have customers already from that first campaign that you can promote your new one too. So you also, I was looking at your profile for Kickstarter, and you guys have backed 28 campaigns. I think this is the most I've seen for any guest on the podcast that's launched on Kickstarter. 28 campaigns that you guys backed on Kickstarter. Do you, I guess, why did you feel like you had to back? Not why did you feel like you had to back it, but like, what made you guys decide to back 28 other Kickstarter campaigns?
I'm not sure that it was that it's even a conscious decision. It's just like we talk about stuff that we really love and that we think should exist in the world, and we're always happy to back it. It means that sometimes I'm always carrying around a few other like Kickstarter products and things that I'm testing for people, and we just love it as a way to bring things into the world that a few years ago just may not have made it. It's a really cool platform.
Yeah, there's definitely a tight-knit community of backers out there, so I can definitely see why you would want to get involved in that community. So one thing that really stood out with your Kickstarter campaigns is the videos. You know, did these were these produced by in-house, or did you guys hire people to help you produce these product videos for your Kickstarter campaigns?
In-house, both of them actually. The first one was. I mean, Jimmy deserves most of the credit on, the vast majority of the credit on both of these videos. It was kind of the two of us and a friend that a kind of a photographer friend that we roped in to help us for the first one, and then the second one. Yeah, kind of a similar situation where it was members of our team that helped us with the editing on that one. Jimmy still wrote all the scripts. We kind of had a game of call it like editing, game of chicken with the editing, where he would write increasingly ridiculous things in and wait to see what I would edit out, and I just left it all in there. So that's how you ended up with that passage at the very beginning of us dancing on the beach in kind of Peruvian masks.
Yeah, I think it was a very hilarious video. Anyone out there is listening should check it out. I think it's definitely caught my attention. So from the first campaign to the second campaign, though, did you learn anything about what works with the video or what works with the landing page for a Kickstarter campaign that you made sure to include in the second campaign?
Yeah, I think we didn't change the way we went about things too much. I think we feel like it was kind of we'd done a lot of research for the first one, so I guess we felt that most of that could be continued on. Yeah, kind of. I think we started with the cross promotions a little earlier than on the first one. That was when you've got the opportunity to tell your backers about some of the other awesome projects that are happening on Kickstarter at the same time. So that's always good. But yeah, I think they were fairly similar in the way we went about that part of the process for both campaigns.
Can you talk a little bit more about this cross promotion? Is that something that's done while you're running a campaign, or is this after you've are about to launch a campaign and you work with other past campaign creators to promote your product? What does cross promotion mean?
Yeah, so I guess it's just it doesn't happen until you've launched, really, because then the kind of only way usually that you would know about these other Kickstarter campaigns is because you've both launched. So one will send a message to the other and say, hey, we think we're both great products that should be helping each other out, and how about we do a cross promotion? And we actually, we're very particular about that as well. So it's actually only a small fraction of people who contact us that we would kind of partner with in that way. But yeah, so when we find something we think is really good, and there's been a lot of thought and hard work gone into it from the creators, then we'll tell our backers about it as well.
Very cool. And I didn't know that people there were this kind of process for cross promotion, but I think it's definitely something that other campaign creators should consider exploring, because again, the backers out there, it's a community of backers. Sometimes they just like backing projects, not necessarily because they are on Kickstarter looking for something specific, but they're looking to just back awesome campaigns. So definitely find ways to get in front of that group of folks. So one thing I noticed in one of the campaigns you guys had run is that it says at the very top that the campaign is over, but the journey is just getting started. To stay in the loop, keep in touch below. Then you have basically a bunch of banners that link to your Instagram, your Facebook, to the actual site to buy right away. So basically a bunch of places that they can go to off of the Kickstarter page. Do you guys get a lot of traffic from people checking out a Kickstarter campaign that has ended that then comes to your site?
There's a reasonable amount. I don't think it's I don't think it would be in our top list of referrals, but I guess maybe there's more just after the end of the campaign. It's really a matter of the Kickstarter campaign sort of freezes as soon as the campaign closes. So it's just it's just making it easy for anyone who kind of drops on your page after that to find you in your current form. So to have a link in there that you actually still control and can change as your main product page changes later on.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Kickstarter itself does have a lot of, essentially, I guess, SEO juice. So if you type in the name of your brand or searching for different products, sometimes the Kickstarter campaign is one of the first ones to show up, or at least on the first page. So you definitely want to find a way to take that traffic and direct them to, like you're saying, your current form on your Shopify site or whatever site you're selling your product on. So what do you guys have planned for the next year? Like, what are some things that the listeners can look out for from you guys?
Well, we're as always, we're very heavily in product development at the moment. So we've got some stuff we're pretty damn excited about coming out at some point. I guess the thing with us is that we pretty much everything we've done has been worked on for at least a couple of years, and that hasn't really changed. So it's like when we feel that it's truly ready, we'll release it. So we don't make any promises or even that the products will be released. So we keep pretty quiet about what we're doing, because a lot of the products we've developed in the past, some of them we don't think they're good enough, and we don't release them. So but awesome. The current batch look like they're going to be pretty amazing. So
very cool. Thanks so much, Doug. So Minaal.com, again, is a website, Minaal.com. Anywhere else you recommend the listeners go and check out if they want to follow along with what you guys are up to?
No, it's very much all found through there. It's the only place we sell our products aside from Kickstarter for the launches. It's all it's all at Minaal.com.
Awesome. Yeah, if anyone wants to be made aware of any Kickstarter launches, I'm sure you will broadcast that out to your email list. So if you want to sign up, I think that's probably the best way to stay in touch with you guys. Look out for any upcoming campaigns. All right, cool. Thanks again so much for your time, Doug.
Great. Thank you, Felix.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.